The storm rolled in faster than the weatherman predicted. The wind howled through the pine trees like a warning, and snow fell in thick sheets across the lonely roads outside Ironwood, Colorado. Most of the town was already shut down, windows dark, doors bolted. But Tom Rivers wasn't watching the storm. He was nursing a bourbon in his hand and a scar that burned deeper than any cold ever could. It had been 6 years since he left the bureau. 6 years since everything fell apart. His cabin stood on the edge of the Pike National Forest, isolated and quiet, just the way he liked it. The kind of quiet that didn't ask questions. Inside, the fire crackled low, casting long shadows across old photo frames and newspaper clippings that hadn't seen light in years. The photo on the mantel, the one with Tom in full FBI gear, standing next to a German shepherd with sharp eyes and a tongue lolling in a confident grin, was turned face down. Tom didn't keep pets anymore, not after what happened in Juarez. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes drifting toward the window, then froze. Something was moving in the snow, not the wind. Lower, slower, wounded. Tom dropped the glass and reached for the rifle near the door. He stepped out onto the porch, boots crunching through the powder. The wind hit him square, but his focus was on the shadow now collapsing near the tree line. Cautiously, Tom approached. What he saw made his breath catch. It was a German shepherd. Collapsed. Ribs showing. Its coat matted with blood and ice. One ear nicked and twisted, like someone had tried to tag it and failed. The dog lifted its head weakly, eyes locking with Tom's. They weren't pleading. They were waiting, trusting. Tom dropped to one knee. "What the hell happened to you, boy?" The tag on the collar was military grade. A serial number and one word, Rex. Tom didn't hesitate. He scooped the dog up, heavier than he looked, and staggered back to the cabin. He hadn't carried weight like this since his field days, but adrenaline cut through the pain in his shoulder like fire through frost. Inside, he laid the dog near the hearth, wrapping him in an old Marine-issued blanket. He turned up the heat, grabbed towels, and began cleaning the wounds. A bullet grazed across the hind leg. Lacerations along the ribs. Someone had wanted this dog dead. "You're lucky I still know how to patch people up," Tom muttered, though his hands were shaking. "Or unlucky, depending how you look at it." Rex didn't move much, but his eyes followed Tom like a hawk's. That night, Tom didn't sleep. He sat near the dog, watching every breath rise and fall like a countdown. By morning, the bleeding had stopped, and Rex was still alive. Just barely. Tom brewed coffee and stared out the window. No tracks in the snow, no vehicle, no signs of how the dog got here. It was like he'd been dropped by the storm itself. He called the local vet clinic. No answer. Then the local sheriff's line. Still no answer. He tried the animal rescue in Denver. A voicemail. So Tom made a decision he hadn't made in years. He took responsibility. By day 3, Rex was moving. Slowly at first. He'd rise, limp to the water bowl, drink, then lay back down. But every time Tom entered the room, Rex's ears would twitch. When Tom talked to him, the dog would tilt his head just slightly, like he understood more than a normal animal should. By day 5, Tom found Rex sniffing near the back door, waiting. "I don't have a leash, so don't run off," Tom muttered as he opened the door. Rex didn't run. He walked beside Tom, slow but purposeful, until they reached the back of the property, where the trees thinned and the air turned colder. Then, Rex stopped. He sniffed the air once, twice, then growled. It wasn't a casual growl. It was low, primal, protective. Tom followed his gaze and saw it. A set of fresh tire tracks cutting through the snow. Deep, heavy treads like an SUV or transport van. Recent. No one had business this far out. Tom knelt beside the tracks. Black tire rubber, military grade. And near the tree line, a spent tranquilizer dart. Someone had followed Rex, or tried to take him. Jesus, Tom whispered. That night, he checked the dog's chip using an old military scanner buried in a footlocker in the garage. It pinged. Classified. U.S. Department of Defense. Shadow Fang Initiative. Tom stared at the screen. Shadow Fang. He hadn't heard that name since 2014. It was a black-budget program, canine-assisted infiltration, designed to train dogs in scent tracking, tactical support, and high-level defense op capabilities. It had been shut down after a mission went south in Yemen. A lot of men died, including Tom's partner. But the dogs, they were marked for neutralization. Too dangerous to live. Too many secrets coded into muscle and instinct. Except somehow, one survived. Rex, he wasn't just any dog. He was a ghost, a soldier, a walking secret. And now Tom understood. Someone was hunting him. You showed up at my door for a reason, Tom said aloud, locking eyes with Rex. The dog thumped his tail once, barely audible over the wind outside. You saved me once, didn't you? Tom whispered. Somewhere in the fog of memory, a flash of gunfire. A field in Kabul. The image of a shepherd taking down a gunman before the trigger could pull. Could it be? Rex moved closer, pressing his head gently against Tom's chest. Not by accident. This wasn't chance. Tom looked at the fire, the rifle near the door, the snow falling heavier by the hour. Something was coming. And Rex had returned. Because he remembered. And this time, he was here to return the favor. By the time the snow began to melt the next morning, Tom had already started preparing for war. He hadn't shaved in days, the dark stubble on his jaw matching the shadows under his eyes. But there was purpose in his movements now, not just survival. He dug out the old duffel bags from his attic, gear that hadn't seen daylight since the Bureau signed his retirement papers. Glock 17, extra mags, field rations, encrypted radio, and the thumb drive he once swore never to touch again. Rex watched it all, alert but calm. Every time Tom glanced at him, the dog sat straighter, more focused, as if remembering who he was. Not just a soldier, not just a weapon, a partner. At noon, Tom made a satellite call. Secure line. 1 ring. A woman's voice picked up. You shouldn't be using this number, Rivers. Neither should someone be hunting Shadow Fang assets in my backyard, he replied. A long silence. Then, you found one? More like he found me. The voice on the other end changed. Warmer, but tenser. Which one? Tag reads K93, Rex. Impossible. Rex was declared KIA in Afghanistan. That's what the logs say. Well, your logs are wrong. He's alive. And someone tranquilized him. Used a government-grade dart. Another silence. Where are you? Tom paused. I'm not telling you. Not until I know who signed that order. Someone wants these dogs off the map, for good. You think this goes past the DOD? I think it goes all the way up. And I'm not handing over the only witness I've got. She exhaled. Tom, listen to me. If it's really Rex, they won't stop. You know what he's capable of. He knows things. Tactical protocols, scent targets. And worse, he remembers faces. Tom's stomach tightened. Yeah, I'm counting on that. After the call, he stared at the blank TV screen for a long moment, then turned to Rex. Who were you running from, buddy? Rex padded over, sat in front of the fire, and gave a short, almost imperceptible huff, like he understood the question but didn't have the words. Just memory. Tom got to work. He retrieved the trail cam footage from the tree line. 2 black-clad figures appeared just before dawn, scanning the snow. One knelt, inspecting tracks. Rex's tracks. The other held something metallic. A rifle. Tom zoomed in on the van behind them. No plates. No logos. But a small sticker in the corner of the windshield caught his eye. A red triangle. Broken in the center. He froze. That wasn't random. It was the crest of Orion Security, a private military contractor that had been blacklisted 5 years ago for war crimes overseas. Everyone thought the company had disbanded after the hearings. Clearly, someone had kept it alive, and off-book. And now they were after Rex. Later that night, Tom drove down the mountain to the closest diner in Woodridge, 20 miles out. Small, dusty, empty except for a cook and one waitress, both too bored to care about the ex-agent with a duffel bag and haunted eyes. He slid into the booth and opened his laptop. Ping. Facial recognition software flagged a hit from the camera footage. Simon Whitaker, former major, ex-Orion, discharged dishonorably. Tom sat back. The last time he'd seen Whitaker was during the Yemen op. Whitaker had led the extraction team that was supposed to recover both human and canine assets. Instead, he'd gone dark, the mission collapsed, and most of the Shadowfang units were presumed dead. Now Whitaker was back, and chasing ghosts. Tom closed the laptop and looked at the window. Snow swirled outside again. But it wasn't the weather that chilled him. Back at the cabin, Rex was restless. He paced, tail low, ears up, sniffing the doorframe like he smelled something Tom couldn't. And then, a sound. Barely audible. Click. Tom was already moving, grabbing the rifle from behind the door. He flicked the light switch. Nothing. Power's out. He knelt near the window and peered through the blinds. A red dot danced across the side of the cabin, sweeping slowly. Rex let out a low growl. Tom whispered, "Down." They moved together, silently, as if no years had passed between them. Just instinct and muscle memory. Rex slid into position by the door, tense, waiting. Tom crept to the back room, lifted the loose floorboard, and pulled out a device. A jammer. He flipped it on. Whoever was watching from out there just lost comms. The silence outside stretched. Then a flash. Glass shattered in the front room. A tear gas canister bounced across the floor. Rex didn't wait. The German Shepherd lunged through the smoke like a missile, teeth bared. A scream pierced the dark, followed by gunfire. Tom burst out the back, flanked the cabin, and came around the side. 2 figures, one down. The other, Whitaker, was backing away, pistol raised, blood dripping from his arm. "Rex!" Tom shouted. Rex peeled off, retreating to Tom's side. Whitaker stared. "You," he said, voice rough. "I thought you were done." "Seems we both underestimated the wrong dog." Whitaker smirked. "You think this ends here? The world's changing, Rivers. These animals are liabilities. Leaks." Tom raised his rifle. "Funny. He just saved my life." "Again." Whitaker sneered and tossed something to the ground. A flash grenade. The world lit white. By the time Tom's vision cleared, Whitaker was gone. Tire tracks led into the trees. Rex limped slightly, favoring one leg, but his eyes remained sharp. Focused. Tom crouched beside him. "You okay?" Rex nosed his hand. Affirmative. Tom stood, breath visible in the cold. One thing was clear now. Rex hadn't just shown up for help, he had a mission. He'd been hunted, yes, but not just for what he knew, for what he carried. Inside that collar was a data chip. Tom had seen it when cleaning the blood earlier, hidden behind the tag. Subtle, but military grade. He scanned it, encrypted. The header read, Black Widow, initiated. Tom stared at the screen. Oh, hell, he muttered, then looked at Rex. You didn't just come back to remember. You came back to stop something. Rex wagged his tail once. The fight wasn't over. It had just begun. The air inside the old Jeep was thick with tension. Tom gripped the wheel, his knuckles white against the faded leather, his mind racing as fast as the snow-covered road beneath them. Rex sat upright in the passenger seat, scanning the trees like a sentinel, ears perked, body coiled. He wasn't just a passenger, he was on alert. Always watching, always reading the world like a battlefield. The chip was encrypted. Deep-level military code, the kind only cracked by someone on the inside. Tom had driven straight to the one person who could help. Jenna Hayes, an ex-cyber intel analyst he once trusted with his life. They hadn't spoken in 6 years. She lived off-grid in a decommissioned radio tower on the edge of Tahoma County. It was a place few knew existed, and even fewer could access without clearance or invitation. As Tom pulled up, the floodlight above the entry buzzed on. A camera shifted slightly. Then the steel door creaked open. Still driving that rust bucket? Jenna called out, leaning against the frame. Her red flannel shirt hung loose, hair braided back, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. You really don't like being found, do you? Tom didn't bother with greetings. He held up the collar chip. I need you to crack this. She tilted her head. What's it from? He glanced at Rex. Her gaze followed. No. Rex let out a soft woof, as if to confirm the impossible. Is that really? Yeah, Tom said. It's Rex. Inside, Jenna worked fast, her fingers flying across the keys. The room smelled like old books, soldering wires, and coffee that had been reheated too many times. Rex sat close by, eyes locked on the door. Even in safety, his body never relaxed. Tom stood behind Jenna, arms folded. He's not just running, he said. He's carrying something that could expose everyone who tried to erase him. Jenna paused. You're not going to like what I find, are you? Probably not. The screen lit up with a decrypting progress bar. 50%, 60, 80. Then it froze. A warning flashed. Access breach detected. Trace initiated. Someone's watching this data, Jenna said. She slammed a kill switch, severing the signal. They're trying to triangulate location. I bought us maybe 90 seconds. Before Tom could respond, Rex shot to his feet with a sharp bark. 3 red laser dots appeared across the wall. Move! The window shattered. Rounds punched through the concrete wall like paper. Jenna rolled under her desk, grabbing a pistol from a drawer. Tom flipped the table, diving behind it as bullets slammed through metal and wood. Rex bolted toward the back of the room, using a shelf to leap and crash through the narrow hallway door. A yelp echoed as glass cracked in the rear entry. They're coming from both sides, Jenna yelled. Tom grabbed her arm. We're not fighting this out. Can you wipe your drives? Already done. Hard kill, protocol triggered when I hit the switch. Then let's go. They moved in a controlled sprint. Rex led the way, already pushing open the back door with his shoulder. The snow outside was fresh. No cover. Jenna tossed Tom a set of keys. My truck's parked behind the comms shed. Military-grade suspension. Gas tanks full. The 3 sprinted, dodging the incoming fire as it rained down from the ridgeline. Tom shoved Jenna into the driver's seat, jumped into the bed of the truck, and called Rex up with him. Jenna gunned it, tires skidding over the icy gravel. A burst of automatic fire cracked the air behind them. "Drive to Fremont," Tom shouted. "There's a safe house above the lumber mill. Private access. They'll lose us in the gorge." As the tower disappeared in the rearview mirror, Jenna let out a long breath. "So, your dog's carrying military-grade intel that someone's willing to kill for. Looks that way. And we just got shot at by Black Ops mercs using thermal tracking." Tom nodded. "Also accurate. I knew I missed working with you for a reason." Inside the cab, Rex stared out the window, his reflection catching the amber dash light. Calm, composed, but not at peace. He had recognized something in the voice that echoed through the comms as Jenna decrypted the file. A low, distorted feed had played briefly before the trace locked in. But Rex knew it. He hadn't just come to Tom by accident. He had followed that voice, across mountains, through fire. It belonged to Whitaker. Back in the command center of a remote mountain base, Whitaker stared at a screen filled with static. "They escaped," his lieutenant reported. Whitaker didn't blink. "I don't care. They've got the chip. They've got a countdown." The screen shifted to display a map, nodes lighting up. "This is a burn protocol," the tech explained. "If they fully decrypt the data, it'll expose the entire Black Widow operation. Logistics, buyers, assets, everything." Whitaker tapped the table. "They won't get that far. I'll kill the dog myself if I have to." Back in Fremont, Tom, Jenna, and Rex arrived at the safe house. An old ranger station, reinforced and buried behind a false rock slide. They slipped inside and immediately set to work. The decrypted portion of the chip had yielded 3 things: coordinates, a shipment manifest, and one name: Senator Malcolm Rhodes. Tom stared at the screen. "Rhodes sits on the Homeland Security Committee. If he's involved, this isn't just corruption. This is federal treason." Jenna looked pale. "He's untouchable. His foundation is protected by 3 layers of clearance and private military, like Orion." Tom turned to Rex. "We're gonna need more than a safe house." Rex looked up, eyes sharp as steel. He was ready, because he hadn't come back just to remember. He'd come back to finish what someone else had tried to bury. The cold, mountain wind howled outside the safe house, as if echoing the storm now brewing within its walls. Jenna paced across the concrete floor, her eyes darting between the decrypted files on her laptop and the surveillance feeds of the surrounding woods. Tom sat at the edge of a workbench, loading a magazine with practiced precision. Rex lay near the door, head high, muscles coiled, ready for a command that hadn't yet come. "Senator Rhodes," Jenna muttered, shaking her head. "This guy funds children's hospitals and hosts gala dinners. There's no way anyone's going to believe he's linked to fentanyl trafficking and black market weapons." Tom didn't look up. "That's the point. He built a perfect mask." She tapped the screen. "The ledger in the chip has timestamps, drop points, payment trails. Rhodes is the final signature on every op." Tom paused. "Which means Whitaker was working for him all along." Jenna sat, folding her arms. "You trained under Whitaker, right?" "Years ago. He was a handler in the Ghost Initiative before it went dark. Most of us thought the program was dismantled after the scandal. But Rex, he disappeared the day Whitaker vanished. Until now." As if sensing his name, Rex turned his gaze toward Tom. His eyes weren't just alert. They were searching, remembering, waiting. Tom looked back. "We were both left for dead." Jenna turned the laptop toward them. A video file flashed on screen. "It was embedded in the Collar's archive," she said, "encrypted separately. You ready?" Tom nodded. Jenna hit play. The footage was grainy, time-stamped nearly 5 years ago. A helmet cam feed, desert terrain. Screams over comms. Through the chaos, a voice broke in. Whitaker's. Ghost 1, you're compromised. New orders. Exfil not possible. Initiate cleanup. Leave the asset. Then, silence. The video shifted. Rex, muzzled, restrained in a metal cage, thrashed violently as soldiers walked away from a burning compound. Tom clenched his fists. He ordered Rex abandoned. The footage ended. Jenna sat in stunned silence. They used him like equipment. When it got messy, they tossed him like trash. Tom stood. No more hiding. No more waiting. Rex rose to his feet, sensing the shift. We're going after Rhodes, Tom said. We end it. Jenna exhaled. You realize this isn't just risky. It's suicide. Rhodes has layers of security, and Whitaker's got people everywhere. We'd be walking into a buzzsaw. Tom looked at her. We don't need to get to Rhodes yet. We flip one of his people, someone on the inside, someone he never thought would talk. Who? Tom's answer came without hesitation. Carla Durant, logistics officer. She moved money, rerouted shipments. If she still has access, she's our way in. Jenna swore. Durant disappeared 2 years ago. She's in Carson City, living under an alias. I kept tabs. She owes me. Rex barked, sharply once, ears twitching. Then he lunged to the door. On the monitor, movement. 3 men, tactical gear, suppressors, thermal goggles, slipping through the trees. We've got company, Jenna whispered. Tom grabbed his rifle, tossing a sidearm to her. Time to move. The first mercenary breached the front porch. Rex didn't wait. He launched through the door as Tom yanked it open, fangs bared. The man didn't have time to raise his weapon. Rex was on him in a flash, clamping onto his arm, dragging him into the snow with a guttural growl that turned into a scream. Tom and Jenna rushed out behind him. More gunfire erupted. Tom ducked behind a snowbank, returning fire. Rex darted to the next attacker like a ghost in the storm, teeth snapping, body low to the ground. Jenna, crouched near a pine tree, managed to tag one of the mercs through the thigh, dropping him to the snow with a muffled grunt. 2 left. Rex circled behind one, drawing his attention. That gave Tom the opening. 1 clean shot. The man collapsed face first into the drift. Only 1 remained, retreating. Rex didn't chase. Instead, he trotted back to Tom, blood on his muzzle, but otherwise unharmed. He sat by Tom's feet, chest heaving, eyes locked on the trees. Tom lowered his weapon slowly. They're not just watching us, he said. They're trying to cut us off. This was a test, a warning. Jenna stared at the downed men. Then we need to hit first. By nightfall, they were already on the move again. They took Jenna's truck and left through the logging trails, Rex in the back seat, alert and silent. As they approached Nevada's desert border, Jenna turned from the driver's seat. What if Durant doesn't want to talk? Tom looked back at Rex, who stared out into the dark. She will, he said. She knows what he did. And in the silence that followed, Rex gave the faintest rumble in his chest. Not a growl, a memory. Because some scars don't fade, and some debts can only be paid in blood. The safe house on the outskirts of Carson City looked abandoned from the outside. Windows boarded up, yard overgrown, dust settled like a forgotten memory. But inside, it pulsed with tension. Carla Durant hadn't said a word since letting them in. She stood with her arms crossed, eyes flicking from Tom to Jenna to the German shepherd sitting in absolute stillness by the door. "Why the hell did you bring him here?" she snapped, nodding at Rex. "Because he's not just a dog," Tom replied. "You and I both know what he's capable of." Rex didn't react. He didn't have to. His presence said enough. Carla turned away, pacing. I burned my bridges, Cutter. I gave up that life. Changed my name, moved off-grid, got clean. If Whitaker finds out I talked to you— He already knows you're not dead, Jenna cut in. He sent a kill squad after us in Wyoming. They weren't just checking in. Tom stepped closer. We're not asking for much. Just access to your old account files, routing numbers, shipment manifests, anything that connects roads to the trafficking. Carla's laugh was bitter. Those files are locked tighter than Fort Knox. Even if I still had access, and I don't, it wouldn't matter. The data's stored on an air-gapped server in Vegas, physical access only. Then we go to Vegas, Jenna said flatly. No, you don't get it. Carla snapped. That facility is run by private military, not rent-a-cops. These guys are ex-special ops. They shoot first, ask later. Tom looked at Rex, then back at Carla. So do we. A long silence. Finally, Carla exhaled. There's one way in, through the East Maintenance Tunnel, only accessed by internal contractors. I can get you schematics, security rotations, but after that, you're on your own. Jenna nodded. We'll take it. Carla grabbed a folder from a false panel behind a bookshelf and laid it out on the table. As she marked the entry point and highlighted the server vault, Tom noticed her hand trembled slightly. You're afraid, he said. Carla didn't deny it. Whitaker isn't just a puppet. He's a handler. He has people everywhere, FBI, DEA, even DARPA. The Ghost Initiative was just the beginning. Rhodes is building something bigger. What kind of something? She looked at him. Bioprogrammable handlers, smart collars, drug-sniffing AI hybrids. Rex. He was the prototype, the last living version. Everything after him was digital, controlled, leashed. Tom clenched his jaw. Rex wasn't leashed. No, she said softly, meeting Rex's eyes for the first time. He was loyal, too loyal. That's why they tried to destroy him. That night, they moved. The Vegas facility was buried beneath an unmarked commercial lot on the outskirts of town. Jenna drove the utility van, Carla riding shotgun, Tom and Rex in the back behind fake cabling and toolboxes. As they approached, Carla whispered, You have 15 minutes from the first breach before lockdown triggers. Tom checked his watch. That's all we'll need. They parked near the loading dock. Tom and Rex moved first, slipping through the maintenance fence. Jenna followed, disabling the exterior cameras Carla had flagged. They reached the access tunnel. Jenna cut through the keypad with a plasma tool, and they slipped into the dark corridor. The air was dry, thick with recycled ventilation. Tom took the lead, Rex at his side, body taut, every muscle on alert. The tunnel opened into a storage bay, and that's when everything went sideways. A sudden screech of metal. Flashbang. They were waiting. Tom's ears rang as light exploded across the bay. He rolled instinctively, pulling Jenna behind a crate as gunfire erupted. Rex was already moving. Silent. Deadly. He leapt onto the first assailant, a masked mercenary in full tactical gear, and took him down with surgical precision. Second tried to flank, but Rex whipped around and clamped his jaw on the man's calf, dragging him down. Tom fired back, taking out another through the crate wall. Jenna tossed a smoke grenade and shouted, Move! They surged forward, smoke blinding, alarms now blaring overhead. Server vaults this way! Carla's voice came through the comms. Tom led the charge. Rex bounded ahead, clearing corners before they arrived. They reached the vault door, thick steel, biometric lock. Jenna slammed a portable scanner against the reader. It'll take 30 seconds. We've got 15. Tom growled. Footsteps. More guards closing in. Then a sharp bark. Rex lunged past them into the hallway, intercepting two mercs with terrifying speed. One fell screaming, The other fled, only to be dropped by Tom's bullet. "Doors open!" Jenna shouted. Inside, the vault was lined with servers, rows of blinking lights. Carla darted to a console, hands flying. "I've got it. I'm in." She downloaded a hard drive and yanked it free. "This has everything. Every ledger, every signature, every drop point. This will destroy Rhodes." Before they could answer, a low tone echoed through the facility. Lockdown. Red lights flooded the vault. "We're trapped," Jenna muttered. "Not yet," Tom said. "There's another way." He pointed to the ventilation shaft at the back of the vault. Barely wide enough for one person. Rex barked once. Tom grabbed the drive from Carla. "You go with Jenna. I'll hold them off." "No way," Jenna said. "We go together." Tom didn't argue. He dropped to one knee beside Rex, pressed his forehead to the dog's. "You remember the canyon run?" Rex let out a low whine, then stilled. "Do it again." Rex bolted back the way they came. Within seconds, gunfire erupted down the hall, chaotic, panicked. "They're chasing him," Carla whispered. "He's drawing them away," Tom said. "He knows they'll follow." They crawled into the shaft, crawling through ducts until they reached the surface grate. Bursting into the desert night, they ran toward the van. Rex was waiting. Bloody, limping, but alive. He collapsed at Tom's feet, eyes fluttering. Tom knelt, hands trembling as he examined the wound. "You did good, buddy. You brought us out." And as the sirens howled in the distance, Tom looked at the drive in his hand. "This ends now." Rex's tail thumped once against the sand. He agreed. They holed up in a run-down motel on the Nevada-Arizona border, the kind of place where the clerk didn't ask for ID, and the ice machine had been broken since Reagan was in office. Jenna sat on the bed, cleaning Rex's wound as gently as she could, her hands steady despite the blood on her jeans. He whimpered once, then stayed still, eyes locked on Tom, who paced the room with the drive clutched tight in his palm. "He saved our asses again," Jenna murmured. "He's not even trained for this level of combat, Tom. How is he still alive?" Tom looked over at Rex and exhaled. "Because he remembers." The TV played low in the background, looping local news. A story about a warehouse fire in Vegas was buried behind a fluff piece on a pie-eating contest. No mention of the shootout, no mention of the data theft, which meant Whitaker was keeping it quiet. But it wouldn't stay quiet for long. Carla emerged from the bathroom, face pale, eyes rimmed red. "They'll know it was us. Even if we wiped the cameras, they'll trace that breach. It's only a matter of time." Tom didn't answer. He slid the flash drive into his laptop and watched the files unfold. Transaction logs, routing slips, encrypted video calls, names, dates, faces, Rhodes, Whitaker, a senator from Maryland, a CEO of a defense contractor, a DEA supervisor. And in one frame, grainy and time-stamped, a familiar figure, the man who had once owned Rex, the handler who abandoned him during a failed raid, Tom's old CO, Whitaker's enforcer. "You seeing this?" Jenna whispered, her voice tight. Tom clicked on the video. It was from 3 years ago, an off-the-books meeting in Budapest. Whitaker was there, negotiating a shipment of fentanyl with an Eastern European arms dealer. And next to him, smiling coldly, was the same man who once left Rex for dead. "He's not just working with Whitaker," Tom muttered. "He's the linchpin. He knows how the Ghost Initiative started. He knows what Rex was really trained for." Carla looked from the screen to Tom. "Then you've got your answer. You take him down, the whole thing crumbles." Jenna stood. "Who is he?" Tom didn't look away from the screen. "His name's Major Logan Hurst. Last known location, DC. But if he's still Whitaker's fixer, he won't stay in one place long. Carla pulled out her phone. I might be able to track him, but I need an hour. Tom nodded. Do it. The air felt heavy. Rex shifted on the bed, ears twitching. Jenna reached down, brushing his fur, whispering something low that made him sigh and close his eyes. Then Carla's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, then up at Tom. You're not going to believe this. He's not in DC. He's here, in Laughlin. What? She held up the phone. Private jet landed this morning. No manifest. But I traced a burner signal. He's staying at the Riverview Casino under the name David Lorne. Room 5 and 12. Tom grabbed his jacket. Then we move now. Jenna stood too. What's the plan? Tom's voice dropped to a low, controlled register. We go in quiet. I talk to him. If he wants to come clean, great. If not. You think he'll talk? Carla asked. I don't care, Tom replied. He's not walking away again. The Riverview Casino glittered under the desert night sky, a glowing beacon of noise and neon. Inside, the floor buzzed with the sound of slot machines, laughter, bad decisions. They moved like shadows, weaving through the crowd. Tom and Jenna took the elevator. Carla stayed in the parking lot, ready for backup. Rex walked beside them, a black and tan ghost among the oblivious patrons. Room 5 and 12. Tom knocked once. No answer. He knocked again, harder. This time, the lock clicked. The door opened just an inch, and a gun came out. Tom reacted first, slamming the door with his shoulder, sending the man behind it sprawling. He crashed to the floor, the weapon skidding across the carpet. Tom kicked it away and hauled him up by the collar. Hurst, older, greyer, but the eyes were the same, ice and calculation. Well, Hurst coughed, smiling through a split lip. If it isn't the mutt's old babysitter. Tom slammed him against the wall. Start talking. I figured you'd come looking eventually, Hurst said, unbothered. What was it? The drugs? The bodies? The dogs? Tom pressed harder. Why Rex? Why abandon him? Because he was too loyal, Hurst said. He wouldn't take new commands, wouldn't adapt. He was obsolete. We needed programmable assets, not sentiment. Tom didn't realize he was shaking until Jenna touched his arm. Tom, she said, let him go. No, Tom snapped. He started this. He buried lives to protect roads. He sold Rex out for a paycheck. But it wasn't Hurst who spoke next. It was Rex. A low, guttural growl rumbled from his chest. He stood in the doorway, unmoving, eyes locked on the man who had left him behind. And Hurst, for the first time, looked afraid. You think that thing remembers? He asked, voice cracking. He never forgot, Tom said. Rex stepped forward slowly, teeth bared. Call him off, Hurst begged. I'll give you the access codes. I'll testify. Just get him away from me. Tom didn't move. Rex kept coming, step by deliberate step, until he was nose to nose with Hurst. Then he stopped and sat. Silent judgment. Hurst collapsed into the chair, shaking. I'll talk. Everything. Whitaker, Rhodes, the whole damn operation. Just don't let him touch me. Tom stared at him, then at Rex. And for the first time in years, he smiled. You're going to tell the world, Tom said. And you're going to do it on camera. Outside, in the cool desert air, Tom knelt beside Rex and looked into his eyes. You remembered, he said softly. Rex didn't move, but Tom saw it in his posture, his stillness, his choice not to bite. He had done the impossible, not because he was trained, but because he had heart. Because he was more than just a dog. He was family. The footage of Major Logan Hurst's confession hit the internet like a shockwave. Tom had uploaded it to a secure whistleblower platform that routed through dozens of proxies before dumping the full video to public servers. He hadn't added commentary or even a title, just raw footage of a man unraveling as he detailed government corruption, illegal trafficking networks, and the systematic weaponization of K-9 units for covert, unsanctioned missions. Within hours, the video racked up millions of views. National news anchors scrambled to verify its authenticity. Congressional committees were announced. Protests erupted outside the Ghost Initiative's remaining headquarters in Virginia, and Whitaker vanished. Tom knew better than to celebrate. It wasn't over. A man like Whitaker didn't go into hiding. He recalibrated. He waited. And then he struck. That strike came 3 days later. Jenna was first. Her apartment in Denver was hit in the middle of the night. They used a breaching charge, but she'd already bugged the hallway with motion detectors. She was gone before the team reached her front door. Carla's signal went dark an hour after that. She didn't respond to messages, but Tom knew her protocols. If she went dark, it meant she was heading to the fallback location, which left him and Rex alone. Tom sat at the edge of an abandoned fire watch tower, scanning the valley below through night vision binoculars. Rex sat beside him, calm but alert, ears twitching. "They're moving faster than I thought," Tom muttered. "Guess Whitaker's feeling the heat." He reached into his coat, pulled out a weatherproof satchel, and unzipped it to check the contents. One hard drive with the last set of files Carla had decrypted. It was worse than he'd imagined. Ghost wasn't just a domestic project. There were branches, international operations, private contracts, links to warlords and intelligence agencies across 3 continents. It had to be shut down completely. "Okay, bud," Tom said, turning to Rex. "This is where we make our move." They left the tower under cover of darkness, weaving through forest trails only Tom and a handful of rangers ever used. The destination, an underground data farm in New Mexico, built into a hollowed-out mine shaft. Tom had helped design the fallback protocols years ago, never thinking he'd be the one triggering them. But halfway through the canyon pass, Rex froze. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Tom crouched instantly. "What is it?" Then he heard it, metal clicking softly against rock, the unmistakable sound of a safety being switched off. Sniper. Without a word, Tom rolled down behind a boulder, tugging Rex close. A bullet cracked into the dirt where they'd just stood. Another snapped off the edge of the rock. "I see him," Tom whispered, pulling out the thermal scope. A silhouette perched along a ridgeline, about 120 yards out, steady as a machine. Another shot, closer. Tom didn't have a clear line for return fire, but Rex didn't wait. In a blur, he took off left, vanishing into brush and shadows. "Rex, no!" Tom hissed, heart pounding. Another shot rang out. Then nothing. Silence. Tom's grip on his sidearm tightened. He moved slowly around the rocks, breathing shallow. If Rex was hit... A scream broke the silence. Then a tumble of curses. Tom crept forward. When he reached the spot, he found the sniper on the ground, arm shredded, rifle kicked 10 feet away, eyes wide in disbelief. "What the hell kind of dog is that?" the man gasped. Tom didn't answer. Rex emerged from the shadows behind him, blood on his teeth, but no fresh wounds. He stood tall, watching the man, waiting for a command. Tom grabbed the man by the collar. "Where's Whitaker?" "I don't know," the man sputtered. "He's gone underground, black site, somewhere off-grid." Tom pressed harder. "Coordinates, a name, something." I swear, I just got a drop order. No one knows the real command tree. That's how he keeps it airtight. Tom looked down at Rex, then back at the mercenary. Then you're useless. They left him tied to a pine with his own zip cuffs, a flare jammed into the snow beside him so authorities would find him in the morning. By sunrise, they'd reached the edge of the fallback site. It was exactly as Tom remembered. Sealed steel doors, biometric scanner covered in frost, an unmarked access panel half buried in ice. He keyed in the old code. Nothing. Rex whined. Yeah, I know. It's supposed to work. Tom tried again. Still nothing. Then a voice echoed from a speaker mounted above the entrance. Access revoked, Captain Hale. Step away from the facility. Tom's blood turned cold. They knew he was coming. That meant one thing. Someone inside the fallback system had flipped. Reroute, Tom muttered, turning to Rex. We're burning the last plan. They made it to an old ranger station by dusk. Inside was a satellite uplink Tom had installed years ago under a false forestry grant. It wasn't much, but it would let him transmit the remaining data packet anonymously. The moment it hit the net, it would detonate Ghost's entire infrastructure. He booted the system. The progress bar crawled. 20%. 30%. Then the lights went out. Not just inside the room. Across the whole grid. Tom swore. Backup batteries kicked in, but the uplink froze. Static buzzed from the monitor. Then came the whir of a drone outside. Rex shot up, ears high, low growl back in his chest. Someone was jamming them. Tom slammed the laptop shut. We're not going to make it from here. He pulled the drive, stuffed it back into his coat, and turned toward the rear exit. But just as his hand touched the knob, the door blew inward. A flashbang bounced into the room. Tom barely had time to shield his eyes. Then the world exploded in white. He hit the floor, ears ringing, vision swimming. Shadows moved through the haze. Voices, boots, weapons. Through the chaos, he heard Rex barking. Then a snarl. Then silence. When Tom blinked the light away, a figure stood in the center of the room. Director Whitaker. Still in his tailored suit, hair perfect, hands behind his back like nothing in the world had ever surprised him. Captain Hale, he said, stepping over the shattered door. You've been busy. Tom tried to move, but a boot pinned his arm. Two men held rifles on him. Whitaker smiled. You should have stayed dead. Tom's ears still rang as he was dragged into the back of an unmarked armored SUV. His wrists were zip-tied, eyes stung from the flashbang residue, and the air inside the vehicle was sterile, cold. Whitaker sat across from him, legs crossed, calm as ever. You always had a flair for drama, Hale, Whitaker said, adjusting his cufflinks. Broadcasting Logan's confession? Cute, but messy. Tom didn't answer. Rex wasn't in the vehicle. That silence gnawed at him more than Whitaker's smug monologue. He'd seen Rex go down just before the flash went off. Was it a tranq dart? A taser? Or worse? I know what you're thinking. Whitaker continued. The dog's fine. Sedated. He's being repurposed. Tom's jaw clenched. He's not a piece of equipment. Whitaker smiled like he was talking to a child. They all are, Hale. You should know that. You trained half the Ghost K9s. You think loyalty and love override breeding, training protocol? He's an asset, like you were. Tom leaned forward, eyes locked on Whitaker. You're wrong. About him. About all of it. Whitaker chuckled. Spare me the morality speech. You killed operatives, dumped classified intel, and now you're riding in the back of my car. You've already lost. Tom leaned back. You never understood the people you tried to control. That's why you'll fall. They drove through winding back roads, then descended underground through a camouflaged access tunnel. Security was high: retina scans, coded pads, biometric keys. This wasn't a government facility. It was private, hidden. And Tom realized what Whitaker had been doing since disappearing. He hadn't gone dark. He'd gone freelance. They escorted Tom into a secure holding cell. Steel bars, no windows, 2 cameras. A concrete bench was the only furnishing. The cell door slammed behind him with finality. For the next 12 hours, no one spoke to him. No food, no updates. He sat in silence, mentally rehearsing every escape plan he'd ever run through in Black Ops training. Most of them required tools, allies, or a dog with a bite pressure strong enough to shatter bone. Then, at 2 a.m., the lights flickered. A faint buzz hummed through the walls, and the cell door clicked. Open. Tom didn't move at first. Trap? Then a shadow appeared in the hallway. A guard, limping, holding his side. It was Paul Navarro, an old contact from the NSA who'd gone off-grid years ago after refusing a Ghost Initiative black bag assignment. No one had seen him since. "Paul?" Tom whispered. Navarro raised a finger to his lips. "You've got 90 seconds. Follow me." Tom was on his feet instantly. They moved through side corridors, passing dark labs and sealed weapon lockers. No alarms yet. Navarro handed Tom a small earpiece and a keycard. 3 levels up. Hangar C, your dog's in containment. Trank should be wearing off any minute. Once you get him, head straight to the maintenance lift. It's off-grid. "Why are you helping me?" Tom asked. Navarro glanced at him. "Because I saw what they did to Carter. Because I owe Rex. And because I believe you're the only one who can burn this to the ground." Tom nodded once. "Then let's end it." They split at the first intersection. Tom swiped the keycard and climbed stairwells 2 at a time. His body ached, but adrenaline surged. At Hangar C, the security door opened with a hiss. And there he was, Rex, lying inside a reinforced glass cage, head low, eyes half open, wires fed into his leg, a sedation drip. Tom moved fast. He shut off the IV, opened the cage with the emergency override Navarro had coded onto the card. "Come on, buddy," he whispered. Rex stirred, blinked. Then slowly, recognition returned. He stood, wobbled, and then pushed his snout into Tom's chest. Tom swallowed hard, pressing his forehead to Rex's. "We're getting out. Together." They moved quickly. Rex recovered with alarming speed, as if sheer instinct overpowered whatever chemical cocktail they'd used. The dog's steps grew surer, posture rising, growl returning. But just before they reached the maintenance lift, an alarm finally triggered. Doors slammed shut. A security team appeared at the end of the hall. Tom raised his stolen pistol. "Stay behind me, Rex." But Rex ignored that. He charged. 3 guards fired tasers. Rex weaved through them like a blur. He slammed into the first with enough force to break ribs. Clamped down on the second's forearm. Tom shot the third. Within 20 seconds it was over. Panting, Rex looked back. Waiting. Tom grabbed the last guard's security pass and sprinted to the lift. Inside, breath ragged, they dropped 4 stories down into a steel corridor lit by red emergency lights. Navarro's voice came through the earpiece. "They know. You've got 6 minutes before the lockdown protocols trigger again." "Where's the uplink?" Navarro paused. "Boiler room. Sub-basement. But there's no exit. Once you're down there, you're locked in." Tom looked at Rex. The dog met his eyes, then nodded. "Then that's where we go." They reached the boiler room, steam hissing from fractured pipes. The uplink terminal was there, just like Navarro said. Powered, shielded, and still active. Tom plugged in the drive. It uploaded fast. Too fast. The moment it hit 100%, all the screens went dark. A video began to play on every monitor. Whitaker's face. Calm. Smiling. "Captain Hale, did you really think I'd let this end in a basement? You should have aimed higher." Tom reached for the drive to yank it out, but a hiss of gas escaped from the vents. Rex barked in alarm, then the ceiling exploded. Armed guards dropped in from above. A standoff. But this time, Rex didn't wait. And neither did Tom. They fought. Tom with fists, baton, elbows, and steel. Rex with fury, teeth, and unwavering instinct. 2 went down fast. 1 fired. Tom ducked, barely missing a shot. Rex leapt, jaws clamping down on the shooter's neck. It ended with both Tom and Rex bruised, bleeding, but standing. The room filled with sirens. Then, silence. Navarro's voice came through again. "Tom, the file's out. You did it. Check your email." Tom accessed a nearby console. A single message blinked. "You are not alone." Below it, a map. Red dots, locations, ghost facilities. And at the top, a message from someone labeled only Shadow Protocol. "The world's watching now. Finish it." Tom looked down at Rex, whose tail swayed slightly, eyes still sharp despite the pain. "You ready for round 2? Tom asked. Rex gave a soft huff. And they moved. The drive through the mountain pass was silent, except for the sound of wind hammering the SUV windows. Tom kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the gearshift, eyes scanning the road ahead. Beside him, Rex sat upright in the passenger seat, head level with the dashboard, ears sharp, alert to every movement. They had escaped Whitaker's compound. But this wasn't over. Navarro's intel had been right. The Ghost Initiative wasn't just a rogue government experiment. It had become something else entirely. A global black market network for trained assets, synthetic drugs, and military tech, running through encrypted lines and anonymous offshore servers. And now, every one of them was a target. Rex let out a low growl. Tom didn't need to look. "I see it," he said. 2 black sedans had just appeared in the rearview mirror, moving fast, gaining. He pushed the accelerator. Rex braced his paws on the console. Suddenly, one of the sedans pulled to the side and fired a burst of automatic rounds into the air. A warning. Tom swerved off the main road, dirt and gravel kicking up behind the tires, heading straight toward the logging trails carved deep into black, hollow forest. "They want a chase," he muttered. "Let's give them one." Branches scraped the windows as the SUV tore down the winding dirt path. The trees thickened, the trail narrowed. Behind him, the sedans struggled to keep up. But they weren't giving up. "Hold on," Tom muttered. "Shortcut." He veered left, barreling through a clearing, wheels bouncing over uneven terrain. The SUV clipped a stump and spun slightly before catching grip again. Tom straightened out, heart pounding. Rex barked once, not in panic, in warning. An explosion lit the rear window. The sedan behind them had hit a landmine. "What the hell?" Tom whispered. That wasn't his trap. Someone else had laid it. Rex turned, teeth bared. Up ahead, a figure stood in the middle of the trail, face obscured by a black hood. Armed, unmoving. Tom slammed the brakes. Dust clouded the windshield. By the time it cleared, the figure was gone. Tom stepped out slowly, gun raised. "Stay," he said to Rex. But Rex didn't listen. He leapt from the SUV, bolting toward the trees, barking, fast, focused. Tom followed, crashing through undergrowth, gun raised. And then he saw her. Standing at the base of an old ranger station, half collapsed and covered in moss, was Mia Whitaker, alive. She looked older, thinner, worn down. But it was her. "Mia," Tom said, breath caught in his throat. She nodded slowly. "They told you I was dead." "I buried your file," he said. "I saw the report." "They faked it. Whitaker needed a scapegoat, and I was the obvious choice. I knew too much." Rex growled low, circling her. "He remembers," Mia said, eyes on Rex. "That day in Syria, I pulled shrapnel from his leg. He didn't forget." Tom lowered his weapon. "You've been helping me." She nodded. "Navarro's been my eyes inside. I've been feeding him everything I could smuggle out from Black Hollow. You going public forced Whitaker's hand." Tom shook his head, still processing. "You're the one behind Shadow Protocol." "I had to become the ghost," Mia said softly. "Now it's time to burn them all." From her backpack, she pulled out a tablet and tossed it to Tom. "Every operation, asset list, offshore account, all of it. But we only get one shot. Once you upload this, the Ghost Initiative will fall apart, and every dirty politician funding it will want you dead." Tom looked at Rex. Rex looked back and gave a soft whine, as if he understood. Tom turned back to Mia. "Where's the server?" She hesitated. "You're not going to like it." "Where?" "Washington. Langston Security's private data vault. Fortified, underground. We'll need a clean path, an inside badge, and 20 minutes of darkness." Tom smiled faintly. "Then we'd better make friends fast." They returned to the SUV, recalibrated, and drove for hours, stopping only to refill at a backwater safe house where Navarro waited. The plan was simple but suicidal. Infiltrate Langston Security during a quarterly audit, posing as inspectors, while Rex smuggled the drive in a false harness. Once inside, they'd use Mia's override credentials to crash the internal system, upload the Shadow Protocol, and send every last detail to a global whistleblower site. The three of them prepped in silence, their movements smooth, professional. Then Navarro glanced at Rex. "You ever seen a dog take out a full tactical unit?" Tom smirked. "I've seen him do it with a limp." Rex just stretched, then sat back, jaw tight, watching his humans prepare for war. The next night, they moved. Inside Langston, everything went wrong at once. Mia's badge scanned red. Their access codes triggered an internal alert. Navarro had to pull a fire alarm to reroute security. Tom slipped through the chaos with Rex at his heel, dodging armed guards and biometric locks. By the time they reached the vault, they had 4 minutes. Tom uploaded the file. But then the screen flashed red. Corrupted file. Upload failed. He stared. "No." Mia's voice came over comms. "Backup uplink. Roof satellite. You've got 90 seconds. Tom grabbed the drive, sprinted. Rex was already ahead of him, sensing urgency, leaping over railings and bounding upstairs with superhuman speed. As they reached the rooftop, gunfire echoed below. They were out of time. Navarro's voice cut through. "They're coming!" Tom shoved the drive into the satellite port. Progress bar, 10%, 25%. Below, doors crashed open. Rex snarled, stepping between Tom and the exit. Progress bar, 80%. Tom pulled his sidearm. 4 guards appeared on the rooftop. Rex growled, tensed. Tom whispered, "Now." And Rex launched, like lightning. The guards scattered. Rex tore through one, sent another flying with a shoulder charge. Tom fired twice, ducked, took a hit in the shoulder. Upload complete. The file went live. The rooftop lit up with flashing alerts. World governments were watching. The ghost initiative was exposed. And still, Rex stood, bloody, battered, but unbroken. Tom looked around. "You did it, Rex," he whispered. "You really did the impossible." But Rex didn't move. He was staring off the edge of the rooftop. And Tom followed his gaze. There, rising out of the darkness, was Whitaker, alive, smiling, holding a detonator. "Round 3, Whitaker said, and pressed the button. The rooftop shook beneath their feet. Tom's ears rang from the explosion. The far corner of the building had erupted into flames, throwing debris into the night sky like fireworks. Rex had lunged just in time, knocking Tom away from the blast radius. Now smoke curled through the air, sirens blared in the distance, and Whitaker was gone, vanished again into shadow. Tom groaned, pushing himself up. Blood soaked his sleeve, his shoulder searing with pain. He looked around. The satellite dish was still intact. The upload had gone through. And Rex? Rex limped toward him, singed fur along his flank, but alive. His tail wagged once before he sat heavily beside Tom, panting, eyes still scanning the rooftop for threats. "You stubborn, beautiful beast," Tom muttered, reaching out with a shaking hand. Rex pressed his head against Tom's chest, closing his eyes for just a moment. A rare moment of peace. The doors to the rooftop burst open. Navarro and Mia emerged, covered in soot and ash. Navarro's face lit up the second he saw them. "You're alive," he said, stunned. "Barely." Tom grunted, then nodded toward Rex. "He got me out." Paramedics arrived minutes later. Drones hovered overhead, already broadcasting footage of the burning building. The whistleblower site had published everything: names, files, audio recordings, offshore bank logs. The ghost initiative was dead. But Whitaker wasn't. 3 weeks passed. Tom's shoulder was healing. Rex's burns were treated, and a PTSD specialist confirmed he'd regain full strength in time. They were holed up in a safe house deep in northern Oregon, off-grid. But the world knew their story now. The Department of Justice launched a full-scale investigation. Military tribunals began. Mia testified. Navarro disappeared. No one knew where, but Tom suspected he was still fighting the war, just from a different front. And Rex? He became a symbol, not of war, but of loyalty, of survival. The Ghost Initiative had trained dogs to be weapons, but Rex had proven they were something else entirely. Partners, warriors, family. One morning Tom stood on the porch of the cabin, watching the sunrise. A chill clung to the air. Rex sat beside him, eyes half closed, muzzle resting on Tom's boot. "They're calling it the Ghost Files," Tom said, sipping coffee. "Everyone's talking about it. People want to know how we did it, what we sacrificed." Rex thumped his tail once against the wooden deck. "They're offering medals, recognition. But I told them we're not doing interviews, not yet." Rex just yawned. Tom looked down. "You remember that night in Afghanistan, when I pulled you out of that tunnel?" Rex turned his head, eyes locked with Tom's. "You saved me too," Tom whispered. "More times than I can count." A soft crunch in the snow made Rex perk up. A figure was approaching down the hill. A boy, maybe 12, wearing a German Shepherd rescue hoodie, holding a camera. Tom raised an eyebrow. "We expecting visitors?" The boy stopped at the fence and waved. "You're Mr. Lawson?" he asked shyly. "My dad said I could come ask you. About Rex." Tom set down his cup. Rex stood, ears forward, tail wagging gently. "I'm doing a school project," the kid said. "About heroes. And they said what you and Rex did saved a lot of people. I wanted to ask, how come you kept him instead of retiring him like other canines?" Tom walked over slowly, with Rex at his side. "I didn't keep Rex," he said, kneeling to the boy's level. "He chose to stay." The kid blinked. "Dogs can choose?" Tom nodded. "Rex can. He remembered who stood by him, and when I needed him the most, he came back." The boy glanced at Rex, who now stood still, letting the kid gently pat his head. "Is it true he attacked 5 armed mercs to protect you?" Tom smiled. "But don't let that get around. It'll go to his head." The boy giggled. "I want a dog like Rex someday." Tom stood again. "Don't just want a dog like Rex. Be someone worthy of a dog like Rex." The boy nodded earnestly, waved goodbye, and trotted back toward the road. As he disappeared from view, Tom looked down at Rex again. "You're a legend now." Rex sat and tilted his head, unimpressed by the idea of fame. That night, Tom uploaded one final video to the page they'd set up after the files went public. No flashy edits, no background music, just him and Rex, sitting by the fire. "People keep asking me to tell our story," Tom said, his voice calm but steady. "But the truth is, it's not about the explosions. It's not about secret files or high-level conspiracies." He looked over at Rex. "It's about loyalty. It's about what happens when you don't give up on someone, even when the world does. It's about a dog who remembered what it meant to be saved. And years later, he did the impossible." He leaned forward. "So if you've ever had a loyal pet, if you've ever looked into those eyes and seen something more, tell us your story. Join our community. Help us make sure heroes like Rex are never forgotten." The screen faded to black, and then the words appeared. "German Shepherd Initiative. Loyalty never dies."